Hey everyone, Britt Davenport here. Welcome to this episode of The Spin, where we drop tips and tricks to help you in your tying endeavors. So today I will be covering some tips on working with Peacock Herl. So Peacock Herl is a great material that fish really seem to love. I mainly fish for trout, so I tie a lot of trout flies, and I almost always find myself grabbing a fly with Peacock Herl in it, and also oftentimes for steelhead as well. So as much as fish love Peacock Herl, it can be equally as frustrating for the fly tyer, especially newer tyers. When I first started tying, I absolutely hated tying with it. It would always break and just cause a lot of frustration. Not good when you're just starting out, not good when you've been doing it for a few years either. On the river, I would find when I caught fish on it, the fish's tooth would catch on it and it might come unwound, break, and just then the fly was toast and I had to tie another one on. Or I would lose it, which I do that all the time as well. So it's just Peacock Herl. It's a great material, but it's just brittle. You pull on it, it breaks. It's just very fragile, but it is what it is. We still want to use it in our flies. We just need to find ways to circumvent that fragility a little bit. So that is what we'll cover today. We're going to cover a couple techniques to mainly reinforce the Peacock Herl as you apply it to your hook, and then we'll also cover a way to add other materials in with it so that you can get a different look if you want. Just something kind of fun I've been playing around with. So with that, let's get started. To start with, we're going to put our hook in the vise. Today I'm just using a Daiichi 1720 size 6. It's just for demonstration purposes, so it didn't really matter too much which hook I used. Just wanted something big enough for us to be able to see. I'm using my purple, royal purple I believe, Norvise with the magnum hubs and just the standard jaws. We're going to be using some green thread today. I don't even know what thread it is. It's just something chartreuse, bright green colored, so it's easy to see. So before we do anything, we're going to start just by laying down some thread. We're not going to actually be tying a fly, so that's not real relevant, but we're just demonstrating. So I'm going to bring my thread all the way to the rear. Now this first method is really the most basic. So we're going to take a piece of wire, and it could be copper, it could be whatever color floats your boat. We're just going to tie that in at the rear. And now we're going to use just a single strand of Peacock Herl. This gives it a really bushy look, but using one strand, it's very fragile. So if you're going to do that, it helps if you take it from the eye of the peacock feather. They tend to be a little bit fuller here than just the strung herl. So we're going to go ahead and try to find a decent looking one that's not all tore up already. I like to just kind of break that tip off. And on this, you want the flues to be pointed down. I'm just going to tie that in and then advance our thread forward. I'm just going to throw a half hitch in there for now. Now this is where if you have a rotary vise, it is beneficial. If you take this Peacock Herl and you go hand over hand with it, every time you do that, you're changing the amount of tension, which makes it more likely to break. If you have a rotary vise, if you actually use that rotary feature on it, and watch that hook point, you're just holding it in one position that whole time, so you're not constantly changing the tension on it, which makes it slightly easier to do without breaking the herl off. So now I'm at the end. I'm going to grab my thread, back it up a little bit, and then we're just going to tie that off. And now to reinforce that, so right now we've just got that one going all the way up. We're going to reinforce that, and we're going to counter rib that. So rather than going the same direction, we're going to go in the reverse direction. And so that's just one way of reinforcing Peacock Herl. I'm going to toy that down. Technique 1. And with that, I'm just going to take that out. Not even going to tie it off because I'm just going to strip that hook when I'm done. Next up, again, we'll just put a hook in the vise. Grab our thread. Lay down a bit of a thread base. Mainly it's just to help us see the hook at this point. So for this way is specific to a Norvise, and if you've ever seen me demo tie at any of the shows, it's one of my absolute favorite things to demonstrate. So I'm going to take this strong Peacock Herl, and I'm going to grab 5 or 6 pieces. So I've grabbed them. I'm going to just even those tips up, and that gets rid of the very tips, which are the most fragile. I'm going to go ahead and just tie this in, cover those butts up, and then I'm going to throw a half hitch in. And so what we're doing, we're going to use the spinning function. So there's rotary vices and then the Norvise where it actually spins to make an actual peacock chenille rope out of it. So I'm going to bring my thread over to my thread post. I'm going to bring the Peacock Herl over, loosen my tension nut, and then spin. And so by doing that, we've essentially made a chenille rope out of that Peacock Herl. You might have one piece break, but it's so entwined in there, it's not going anywhere. And then we can just bring that up. And then you can go ahead and just tie it off. So again, that's probably my absolute favorite thing to do on my Norvise. I love it. It's just fun. So that is technique number 2 for reinforcing Peacock Herl. Technique number 3 . Get my hook in the vise straight, that'll help. Just lay down a bit of a thread base. Again, we're going to use that strong Peacock Herl. Pull out, a number of pieces, however many you want. I usually, just out of habit, grab a few more than I need, just because I'm so used to them breaking. Again, even those tips up. Go ahead and tie that in. And then I'm going to put a half hitch in at the back. And then literally all we're going to do is we're going to take the Peacock Herl and twist it around our thread. So this is one way to do it if you don't have a rotary vise. So now we've twisted it into our thread, around it, and you can bring the body forward. You can also tie that off as if you were tying off a duggin loop. There's a few ways to do everything. Anyways, so that is technique number 3. And then technique number 4, I mean, these are all getting to the same idea. The basic idea is you're just reinforcing that herl with the thread. If you're using black thread, you wouldn't even be able to see it in there. because we're using green thread just for demonstration purposes. You can see some of that peek through, but that can also be a benefit if you want a little bit of color to show through. So again, we're going to use the strong Peacock Herl. Just grab a few pieces out, even the tips up. Go ahead and tie those in. Now this time we're going to make a dubbing loop. So just as if you were dubbing a fly and wanted to make a dubbing loop. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put a half hitch in and move my bobbin out of the way just so it's out of view. So now you've got this dubbing loop made, and then you would just take that Peacock Herl down with the dubbing loop. Use a dubbing twister with whatever kind you like. There's a bunch of them out there. And then just give that a spin. And so again, we're just taking that thread and different ways of making a chenille rope out of it. See, and there I hit it with the hook point and it didn't even break. So that was technique number 4. So 4 different ways of doing it, all getting to the same end result for the most part, reinforced Peacock Herl. The last 3 were really quite similar. The first was a little bit different because we did use copper wire. So the last tip or trick I guess I want to share with you is adding other materials in with your Peacock Herl. So for this, I am going to be using a Semperfli product called Straggle String. I'm going to use Kingfisher Blue mostly just so that you can see it. So it's a kind of a little chenille. It's got some UV pieces in it. Just a really cool material. I've just been playing around with this technique a little bit, trying to see if I like it or not, but I think it's really got some promise, especially for some lake flies, bodies of lake flies. So I'm going to go ahead and tie in just a piece of straggle string. And then, again, back to that strong Peacock Herl. I'm going to grab some out. Even those tips up as best we can. You can use your scissors, you can break it off, whichever. I'm going to tie that in. And so now we're going to put that half hitch in, take our bobbin over to our thread post, and we're going to bring all of that material over, the Peacock Herl and that straggle string, and then loosen your tension knot and spin. And so now we've made pretty much that chenille. And so see, you can already see one piece broke, but it's not a big deal, because they're so entwined on that it's just, you know, it's not going to go anywhere. So even if you have a few pieces break like we did on this, it's not a big deal. I'm going to take that back and then wrap that forward. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie it off just like I would a dubbing loop. So you might have 1 or 2 that are kind of stuck out like that, not a big deal. Just pick them out. So that just kind of adds something a little different to a Peacock Herl body. Like I said, I'm still playing around with it, but you could do it with a couple of different types of materials. I really like how this adds some UV effect to it. They have some black color that I'm hoping to try out that'll just add a little bit of the UV. Anyways, thank you all for joining me for this Norvise tip of the week. If you have any questions about fly tying or fishing, shoot me a DM on social media or to my email at hacklesandherl@gmail.com. Thank you again for viewing, and have a good night.